guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I want to start off with saying I'm so sorry I missed Tuesday's upload. I got so sick on Sunday. I had been sick last week and then I thought I was getting over my cold, and then bam, Sunday it completely hits me out of nowhere. It felt like the worst cold ever. I'm thinking it might have been the flu, but I didn't go to the doctor and get it verified, so it was just so bad. I could not get out of bed for 2 days straight. I'm sorry I didn't get a video up, but I just was unable to film. I'm still kind of getting better day by day, so just want to mention that before we get into today's topic, which today's video is an exciting new palette review. I picked up this new palette by Catrice. It is called the Paradise Desert palette. It is a collaboration they did with the Fashion Freak. At least that is her name on Instagram. She also has a YouTube channel. It is called Melly Sanchez. So I saw this palette and I just thought it had a very beautiful color scheme. It says Paradise Desert. I live in the desert. Felt like, you know what? I gotta test that out. Which the price of this is $14.99. But you can find it at Ulta, use some coupons on it, make it even cheaper. Last week they had a 20% off sale, so I was actually able to score that little palette for $11.99. But let's get into it. Here is what the eyeshadow palette looks like. Trying to angle it so you don't see my ring light in the reflection of this. But there is 16 eyeshadows total. Of those 16 shades, 7 are shimmers and 9 are mattes. So it is a very good mix in this palette, and there is such a variety of things that you can create. You could go really bold, or you could also stick to some neutral areas, which is why today I chose to do a 2 looks in 1 video. I didn't want to do just a first impressions on this palette. I felt like with 16 shades, I wanted to test out more. I wanted to create a different kind of look. Do one look that is more bold and out there using these fun colors, and one look that is a little bit more wearable. So that is the plan for today's video. I'm going to give you guys 2 looks and then tell you my final thoughts about it at the end. But before we get into that, let's do some swatches. The first eyeshadow is called Sun Days, Dawn, Heat Wave, Inferno, Solitude, which does not show up on my skin tone, Sunkissed, Serenity, and Sunset. Next up we have Dusty Rose, Bloom, Drought, and Sahara. Man, these last ones were a little bit powdery. Then we have Mirage, Rainfall, leading into palm swatches we have Oasis, and lastly we have Nightfall. And here we have the swatches of the entire palette. Not my best swatching day, but at least you guys get an idea of what comes in the palette. But with the swatches out the way, let's go ahead and jump into the first look of the palette. So for the first look using this palette, I wanted it to be more bold. I just really wanted to test out some of these purples, these blues, and just see how vibrant they are. So that's what I'm gonna do. So the first shade I'm gonna take is called Dusty Rose, and I think that's really accurate. It looks exactly like a rosy color. And I am taking this on the Alamar Fluffy blending brush, and I'm just gonna work this through the crease. It's a very beautiful shade from the swatch. I was a little bit unsure how much it would actually stand out on the lid, but it's actually pretty pigmented. I am gonna swirl my brush in it one more time, build that color up just a little bit more. And I should probably mention that my inspiration for today's eyeshadow look is gonna be a halo eye. So I want to make sure that color is evenly distributed from the outer V to this inner corner. Going in next with the shade Bloom, I'm going to be taking this on my Makeup Geek pointed crease brush. I wanted something with a little bit more of a tapered point to it. That way we don't sweep this product everywhere. So I wanted something in which I could use and get a little bit more control with. So I'm just going to be working this from this outer V to the inner corner, just like we used in the transition shade, but a little bit lower than Dusty Rose. With Dusty Rose, I didn't see any fallout drizzling down, but with this shade, I'm noticing just a little bit starting to pile up here on the outer corner. Just something to be aware of. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of my LA Girl concealer on a concealer brush and start mapping out where I want this halo to go. Then when you're happy with your halo shape, we're going to move on to the next step, which is to take this shade down here called Oasis. This, of course, is a shimmery shade, so I'm going to give it a little assistance. And I am going to be placing this shade on the outer parts, meaning I'm going to be placing it about here and over here. We're going to leave the center for another shade. So just taking the shade on the Makeup Geek foiled eyeshadow brush, just kind of working it in. And again, this shadow has a lot more fallout. And then of course, using my little color switch here, I'm using that on the foiled eyeshadow brush. I will be taking the shade Rainfall, which is this light blue shade, and I'm just gonna be packing this shade in the center. It's not exactly what I was expecting. Let me try a fluffier brush. What if I go in with a large fluffy brush by Wet n Wild? Last resort, take my fingertip, try to just pack that color on. Okay, so I was expecting something a little bit different from that shade. I think it's just so light. So I'm gonna change it up real quick. I'm going back in with the shade Oasis. I'm gonna put this in the middle. So now it's like we were taking that shade all the way over on the lid, which this shimmer shade is very beautiful and foiled looking with a little bit of a spritz to it. Dang it, I dragged it in a little bit too far in here, so I am going to try to put some purple to kind of bring it in a little bit closer. I was just getting a little bit flustered, I guess, when it wasn't working exactly like I thought it was. But now I'm taking that Rainfall shade on my fingertip, and I'm going to try to highlight the center as the halo. Felt like with something underneath, this color could really help and be a little bit more of a standout. Just on its own, it really wasn't showing up that much. And then to kind of start editing things, I'm going to be going back in with that light purple shade and the darker purple shade, Dusty Rose and Bloom. I'm going to be taking Dusty Rose first. I'm using this on my Makeup Geek Defined Crease brush, and I'm running it along these edges just in case, you know, something went a little bit where it wasn't supposed to and ran into that shade. Just kind of helps clean things up. And then taking the shade Bloom on that brush we used earlier, which is the Pointed Crease brush by Makeup Geek. And since I took that blue out a little bit too far, I'm kind of just starting to pack that on these corners. Again, on both corners. So if you're doing this look yourself, just be kind of cautious where you put it. I got flustered and just went all over, and then it became an all over the lid color, and that is not what I was going for originally, so I'm trying to tailor it back to what I wanted. Which of course you could use that as an all over the lid shade. It looked absolutely gorgeous. I just wanted to do something a little different today. And then on a pencil brush, I'm just taking that same shade and just kind of deepening out this little edge that goes around that blue. Then just to experiment a little bit, I'm taking the shade Nightfall, being very gentle this time, cautious not to bring it too far. Right along the edge here that we have of the halo. Just gonna plop a little bit of this shade to merge with that purple and that blue. Then I'm just gonna be taking that Dusty Rose shade on a flat eyeshadow brush and fluff it all the way across on the lower lash line. Then taking the shade Bloom, fluffing that all the way across. Again, this one's a little bit closer to that lower lash line. I'm just making sure I really connect it all the way across. And then I'm taking the Morphe Y22 brush and I'm taking that darker blue shade very close to this lower lash line, sweeping that across. Then the light blue shade, Rainfall, just right where I see I had placed it in the center. I'm putting that just right in the center. And then lastly, just a tiny bit of Nightfall, just kind of, again, where I see I had placed Nightfall. which kind of connects to where my eye kind of curves right there. So I'm just placing that and kind of placing it up just like that. Then I want to make things a little bit more dramatic and add a wing. I'm taking my Kat Von D tattoo liner in Trooper Black. Then when a liner is in place, take some mascara. I'm using the Too Faced Better Than Sex. And just begin coating up the lashes. Then I'm going to be popping on some falsies. I'm going to be using my lashes in the style I Donut Care by Violet Voss. But here we have it, the first look, that is the bold, more playful look. So let's move into the second look and see how those perform. So the first color I'm going to start with is called Sundays. I am taking this on my Morphe Y16 brush and you guessed it, fluffing it into this transition, seeing what kind of pigment we can get. So there it is with that first initial go through. I'm gonna go back into the palette, swirl my brush around again, and see if we can build that color up a little bit. There we go, seeing some more pigment. Yes, there we go, that's what I wanted. Next I'm taking the shade Dawn. This time using my Morphe Y17 brush. I'm gonna start adding this in the middle, just right about here, kind of merging it in with this little inner part. A little bit to the outer. It's gonna be some layering today. Okay, that's with the first initial sweep. Let's build it up. And there we go. Let's move into the next one. Now taking Inferno. So far just working with all of the matte shades, and I'm gonna start placing this in the outer 1/3 area. I'd like to say I'm working in thirds. And I'm just gonna be placing this shadow right in the outer part. I've been kind of working in thirds here, so I'm working on the outer now with this red shade and just dragging it in a little bit to meet with that orange shade. Not in too far where the red just overpowers, but just to blend with it. So this red I feel like went on a little bit more pigmented. The first two I had to build up. I am going to take a little bit more, just see if we can intensify it just slightly more. Then dipping into this shade called Sahara. And I'm going to start placing this in the outer V area. I'm not going to drag it in too far. I don't really want to mess with that red or the orange. I just want to deepen things up just a little bit out here. Just kind of packing that brown shade down here in this kind of lower half. Just kind of sweeping things together a little bit out here. And since I felt like I got a little bit lost, I'm just taking a little bit more of that red shade just over top. So I want to make sure that red is a standout. I don't want it to be lost. Next step, take a little bit of a concealer. I'm taking the LA Girl Pro Conceal. I have the shade Porcelain, and I'm just going to start placing a little bit there. Look up. That way you can get a little map how high up you should go. And then just start to cut this crease. Making sure you kind of tap out these edges as well. Then I'm going to be taking the shade Sunset, giving it some assistance. And I'm going to start placing this right here in the middle. And ooh, yeah, that's nice and foiled. Just packing this down. I'm going to leave this inner part alone because I want to combine another shimmery shade with this. Then I'm taking Serenity. And this shade is going to go in that inner part. This whole look is about layering. And then I'm just going to take a little bit more of that dark brown shade called Sahara on my Makeup Geek Define Crease Brush, and I'm just kind of patting this on the edges. That way there's no harsh lines between the shimmery shade and the matte shades in the outer V. And there we go. I'm gonna complete the other eye, do my foundation, and then I'm gonna come back and complete the under eye with you guys. But I just wanna point out, this is why I did not do my foundation first today. I learned my lesson from yesterday that there is a ton of fallout from this palette. So just keep that in mind, and if you do your eyes first, you'll be fine. All right, now that the face, the other eye is done, and I have some very dramatic lipstick on, I know, I went totally natural today. Next, I want to take this shade down here called Mirage. taking this on my Y22, and I'm just going to be running this all the way along the lower lash line. I know that yesterday I used all the purples to create that look, but I just felt like this look could benefit from a little purple on the lower lash line. And I did not use this specific shade yesterday. I only used the two matte purples. And like I thought, gorgeous. Then taking that same brush I used to kind of detail with that brown shade called Sahara, I'm just taking a little bit right here, blending the brown with that purple. Ooh, yeah, beautiful. Love it. All right, now that that is complete, I am gonna pop on some mascara, some falsies. I'm gonna do the same combination as I did in the first look. So I'm gonna pop that on real quick, be right back. And here we have it, the completed second look. And overall, this was a really good palette. I was able to achieve two very beautiful looks, and there are so many more that you can make with this palette. I think it is a very versatile palette. You can do a lot of things with it, and I really enjoyed the way in which this palette was applied. The blendability was all there. There was no weird patchiness going on. Everything went on so smoothly. The only thing I have to say about it is the pigmentation is a little bit split between being very pigmented right at first, and some shades just need a little bit more attention, which I have found is the lighter shades. They're going to be needing to be built up quite a bit in order to be really pigmented and really bold. But you are able to do so, as you guys saw with that yellow and that orange. You just need to go in with like two to three layers, and then you're gonna have it at a very gorgeous place. So I just want to have you guys know that. Oh, and then aside from that, the only shade in which I had some kind of complications with was the shade down here called Rainfall. I did attempt to use that on its own in the first look, and I just was not able to build it up. So I was a little bit disappointed in that shade, but that is the only one out of this entire palette. I think that's going to be more of a topper shade, kind of like how I used it in that first look, just because it is so extremely light on its own. It's not really going to stand out. And through creating these two looks, I was able to use almost every single shade in here. The only one I missed was this one up here called Heat Wave, and the one right down here called Sun Kissed. They look really beautiful though, and the other one being Drought. But 13 out of 16, I'd say that is not bad. I'm happy I decided to do the two looks in one. I think you get to know the palette a little bit more when you experiment and do some different things, because I think creating one look from this kind of larger palette, I mean, it doesn't really do it justice. There's a lot of shades that go untouched. So hopefully you guys enjoyed me creating two looks in this one video. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell button. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.